Hey everybody, welcome to Fantasy R&R. This is your host Ryan.
And I'm Rob.
And today we're going to be doing a mock draft strategy for fantasy football that we call Jag Off Kelce.
This is Fantasy with Rob and Ryan, Fantasy R&R.
So this is a draft strategy that we're actually a little bit familiar with. Rob, last year we kind of got ahead of the curve and we were taking, Josh Allen pretty early in drafts, maybe like round 3, and we kind of had this mantra of like, let's get a couple of star position players, get your running back, get your wide receiver one, and then get the best, highest scoring quarterbacks in fantasy football onto your team immediately, and that's kind of the strategy. Well, this year we're starting to notice there's a lot of talent on the board. You've got Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence. Even if these guys aren't Super Bowl winning quarterbacks this year, they're going to provide value. You have Justin Herbert, who's going to be just fine. He's going to have a bounce back year, I'm sure, with all the weapons on his team. Joe Burrow, if he's healthy enough. Lamar Jackson is even going to put up his running points. So you've got plenty of options this year. So we're going to go back to that strategy of taking Kelce with round 1. Explain your thinking behind that.
Yeah, I mean, this goes all the way back to day one when we were talking fantasy. Travis Kelce is the man. He is the number 1 tight end, undoubtedly. Nobody comes close. Why not get the number 1 player at the position that just so happens to be the absolute scarcest position in fantasy? So Travis Kelce, number 1 pick, right? Absolutely no doubts.
Yeah, and we have done this in the past and won championships this way. What's interesting this season, though, is we've done a few mock drafts, and we ran into some trouble while we were trying to kind of feel our way around this strategy. There are some people taking Kelce as high as pick 3. We saw Field Yates actually come out with an article, and this is interesting because I always hate this, and I hate being that guy who's like, well, we definitely thought of it first, but we have like no proof of it. We were talking about this, and then because of some audio issues, we couldn't get this original podcast out before Field Yates comes in and says, would you draft Kelce number 1 overall? Because you asked me that question, Rob, before I even saw Field Yates come up in my notifications. I'd have a hard fucking time taking Kelce number 1 overall, but we saw people take him at number 3. One of my drafts, a guy took Jalen Hurts number 1 and just got his quarterback out of the way because I think he's thinking to himself, well, that's 440 fantasy points right there. Now I just got to round it out. You never know with some people this season, and that's why I think this strategy is going to work out with what you're saying. Is like, just take Kelce first, and let's roll our way through. Now, our strategy basically consisted of, let's get Kelce, like you said, and then you've also been talking a lot. As you and me get more and more excited about the Jaguar season, we're starting to feel real good about the power of Ridley, Etienne, and T-Law. Now, to me, this is like a poor man's Peyton Manning, Reggie Wayne, and Edgerrin James. And maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll be better. But I want you to kind of explain, when you're seeing all these other running backs in the fold, Joe Mixon, blah, 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 guys are starting running backs. A lot of them are ranked ahead of Travis Etienne. Why should we go ahead and take Etienne with the round 2 pick?
Yeah, and real quick, just to piggyback off of round 1 and what you were saying about Kelce, my consolation prize this year is Nick Chubb. Like, I feel like if, let's just say I have the 10th, 11th, 12th pick and Kelce does go, Nick Chubb's my guy this year. I got a really good feeling he does kind of an Eckler, where Eckler went a little later in certain drafts. I got him in a 7 last year. I think Nick Chubb's going to be the dude, so that's where I would look. But when it comes to Etienne, T-Law, and Ridley, I cannot wait to see this. And what you were saying with the running backs going before Etienne, I like Tank Bigsby. I think, and I've said this before, I feel like the NFL does tend to skew stories a certain way. I think Bigsby will get touches, trust me. But I think Etienne's coming at it sort of a discount because there is some uncertainty there. Very similar to that of Nick Chubb last year with Kareem Hunt. Look how that panned out. And again, I do think Bigsby's going to be good. Trust me. But I think Etienne, like, oh, he's smaller size, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. When I see him run, I think he's going to be phenomenal. I say you, me, and everybody in this world should feel comfortable taking Travis Etienne Jr. as their RB1.
Yeah, now, obviously, like, Etienne, yes, a little bit of a smaller back 5'10", but I don't even really know what that means. The best running backs in the NFL in history have been a little bit on the stockier side. Like Barry Sanders is 5'9". I mean, that's my dad's height. And I do like what you're saying, actually. You know, you
Warwick
got some.
Dunn comes to mind.
Yeah, Warwick Dunn, man, that's a name. Him and Mike Allstott, what a combo that was when the fullback was still a thing. But yeah,
that was great.
Now you mention it, though, it's interesting because Doug Peterson does kind of have that tendency, back with the Eagles and Miles Sanders and everybody. He doesn't really let one running back take the lion's share of the team reps. I mean, even last year, Etienne, I think, was averaging about 13, maybe 14 at most carries a game, and we never really saw him take more than 40%, not above 50% of the running back snaps on the Jaguars. I mean, as much to my memory as I can remember from last year. So I think maybe you're right. That's the hesitation, is Tank Bigsby's looking pretty good in camp. But, Peterson's going to be patient with him. He's going to pepper him in.
Yeah, and they're going to have two down backs too.
Yeah,
we've seen it already in Peterson. He has the two backs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a loaded running back.
Johnson and Jermichael Hasty, and we know how we feel about him, but we still have Jamal Agnew.
One of those
out there,
will go.
And
Snoop Connor.
and I heard he's not. He's probably going to get cut, but Agnew can sometimes fill in those pocket knife kind of things, those kind of plays, but. Swiss Army knife, sorry. But, I do think what you're saying is interesting. But that is exactly what we did. Now, because I think Etienne's going to be good for 1,000 yards on the ground. I think he's going to be good for 300 receiving. I think he's going to get 50 receptions. I think he's going to get 10 touchdowns total. And I think he's going to be a monster back. So what we ended up doing
I think the receiving yards is the only thing. I think those will be like 500. I think he's going to be
higher.
involved more in the receiving game. And I think... Yeah, I wouldn't go lower than 300. I like that. Yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so round 1, Travis Kelce. Round 2, Etienne. Already I'm happy if I'm starting off a draft that way. Yeah. And this is why I kind of want to stress to people, I'm in a lot of football leagues every year, and some of these leagues are auto draft. God, Rob, I'm in so many fucking leagues, they just appear out of nowhere from people I don't know, like we were talking about with that ESPN league I just randomly got added to. I don't know anybody in there. But, I see the auto draft, and for example, I got Cooper Kupp with pick 8. I actually probably wouldn't want Cooper Kupp at pick 8. I'd probably be looking at someone else. I would have assumed Cooper Kupp went 4 or 5 because that's what he's been X-ranked for the past 2 months. With his injury, this is why I got rid of him immediately, man. Like in our ESPN keeper league,
I'd rather have Nick Chubb. I'd rather have Etienne. Yeah, no.
Well,
I'd rather have R-A and B, in my opinion.
These careers only last so long. I mean, look at Ezekiel Elliott. I picked him up when Ross dropped him so that I could just kind of stash him and see if he ends up on a team. But whatever team he ends up on, he's going to now have less, carries than he normally would have with the Cowboys. So you start to look at these careers and how they just kind of go down the drain super fast. Most of the successful running backs in the NFL were not actually first-round picks or second-round picks. I mean, Austin Eckler was undrafted. But we're going to James Robinson at the time.
Tony Pollard.
Yeah, Tony Pollard, I mean, he was drafted, but it wasn't incredibly high.
I know. But I'm saying props to us on calling that all day long. Well, How many times did we talk about Ezekiel Elliott wasn't the guy? I feel like we've been saying that, screaming that for 2 years. Yeah, Tony Pollard's the man.
Now, I would let's get into round 3. Ultimately loved to take Pollard at round 3. Now that we're rounding the base here, but I don't think he was available. Yeah. And you and me during that draft, I think we started to see some names around there like Joe Mixon, Devontae Smith, and I'm thinking Devontae Smith. It's like, is it a lock though? Is it a lock for 1,010 TDs?
Right.
Is Hurts just gonna get everybody 1,000 yards and 10 TDs on the Eagles this year?
Is Hurts going to do what he did last year? And that's the ultimate question. Is he going to do what he did last year? We're going to find out.
Yeah, and so we saw Aaron Jones sitting there in the mix, and I'm like, man, with Jordan Love needing to rely on his running backs, and they've got A.J. Dillon as the backup workhorse there, and I think Aaron Jones has got that good balance with Dillon, and I love the idea of another Aaron Jones 1,000-yard season. When we did call one season on the podcast that I said, I think this is the year you fade Aaron Jones just a little bit. I don't think he's going to have as good a year. And remember, he kind of crashed down to earth. But this year, I'm all about it. Kelce,
now he's coming at a discount too.
Yes, very high discount.
I feel like there's question marks with Jones. So again, we're talking about best bang for our buck. go get Aaron Jones in the 3rd round if he's sitting there. I mean, he was going 1st round like a year ago. It's freaking nuts.
Yeah, well,
Fourth
last year,
round
Josh
gets
Jacobs.
exciting. We
You
got
know
our
what I mean?
guy. Exactly. Yeah, Josh Jacobs
Last
is
year.
a perfect example.
So, guys, yeah, if you're able,
I keep talking about Cam Akers, another one in my opinion.
And this is actually
Comes out of this.
Akers went very far down. So yeah, I'll explain that right here. Aaron Jones is great at round 3 because of that value. So if you guys are able to follow this same draft,
Right.
I mean, just think about it. Kelce, ETN, Aaron Jones already. Your team is already shaping up to look very nice. I've seen, some of the other people with, they're taking Amari Cooper real high, and that's where we find ourselves in round 4. We're looking at guys like Amari Cooper and, some of the lesser running backs in the league, and all of a sudden we're seeing Calvin Ridley right there, and he's around those X rankings.
Yep.
And that's where we're interested, because the idea of this is now we've got ETN jagging off Kelce. We're going to take Ridley at round 4 and start doing a double handy.
There you go.
And then we'll talk about round 5 here in a second. Why do you like Ridley this year? Are we getting too excited? Is this just a big hype train?
No, stop, no, because ESPN and all of them are catching up to what we've been saying. I said it. I believe we have to have a podcast at the trade deadline. I literally said I believe we're going to look back at this trade, this acquisition of Calvin Ridley, and go, that was the best deal that was made at the trade deadline last year, because it just finally brought that true wide receiver 1 burner that we've been preaching about, that T-Law needed. He had all sorts of weapons in Clemson. And I mean, last year we helped out. We stepped up a little bit. Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, both had career years. I wonder why. I wonder if it has anything to do with Mr. number 16. Excuse me. Wow, I sound like an idiot. Number 16. Yeah, it's exactly. And then we're going to put Calvin Ridley in the mix. Matt Ryan, even though Matt Ryan was a good quarterback, yes. Okay, I still believe T-Law's generational talent's above him. And I think Ridley's just playing for a contract. He lived in Florida, raised in Florida. He has something to prove. He doesn't want to be looked down upon. He had a great article in the Florida Times-Union coming to Jacksonville. This dude's ready to be here. He's ready to play. He had the mental health thing, whatever. Dude, Calvin Ridley is going to be a wide receiver 1. The claim I made last year with T-Law being a top 8, I'll go Calvin Ridley's a top 8 receiver going into next year. Calvin Ridley, wide receiver, Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 0 will be a top 8 wide receiver going into the 2024 fantasy football season.
And it's a good call, because Ridley does have the acumen, the talent, the pedigree, the history in the past. Now, we know he stepped away for, mental reasons one year, and then he was, caught gambling on his own team. Right. I couldn't give 2 shits about that. You know how I feel about that. As long as he's thinking about football this year, which it seems like he is, he's loving playing with T-Law. It seems 100%. Like he is. So, for him to be a wide receiver 8 or better, you got to realize this is value as well. Round 4.
You're getting him in the 4th round. Yes.
Yeah, so
round 5. Let's dive in round 5, because this is where it gets even better.
Yeah, so round 5, this is where we got a little bit nervous. So round 5, there was actually talent on the board. There were a few position players. We had access to Justin Fields as a higher-ranked quarterback. But we looked down the list a little bit, and we see Trevor Lawrence right there. And we're like, okay, this is where we probably got to reach. Now, in one of the drafts, T-Law didn't go until round 6 or 7 to us. But round 5, we went ahead and we got our quarterback that we believe is going to throw 35 TDs and 4,000 yards this year. And now he is part of a threesome jagging Kelce off. We have Kelce, ETN, Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, and now T-Law round 5. So everybody else that was going after that quarterback early like we did last year, they took their Jalen Hurts, they took their Josh Allen. Listen, it's great to take a running quarterback. Me and Rob have been talking about this for years. I'm actually switching up this year, because I think the arm talent is probably the best it's been in the NFL in a long time, with guys like Herbert and Burrow and T-Law. And I don't really think it's going to fucking matter whether or not T-Law uses his legs a lot this year, or whether Justin Fields gets his arm better this year. I think Justin Fields needs to lead the offense to stick around like Jalen Hurts. That's what I liked about Hurts. But at the end of the day, the end of the season, I think they all score around the same amount of points. So you're out there getting Josh Allen round 3, and you wasted a pick. We get Aaron Jones. Now round 5, we're taking our guy T-Law. And I got to be honest to people out there, I wouldn't, if T-Law's gone, round 5, Herbert's fine. And then Round 6 is where it really got interesting because we went with a throwback player. There wasn't a ton of options here. We had some like yucky ones like Michael Pittman Jr. But round 6 we had access to DeAndre Hopkins. Veteran presence, obviously one of the best wide receivers in the NFL when he's at the top of his game. He is going to be playing with Tannehill, but maybe that gives Tannehill a reason to step it up. Round 6, we were.
Or don't forget about Will Levis. Don't forget about Will Levis.
If he comes into the fold, right? Yeah. So
could be interesting. Could be interesting.
Hopkins, we weren't like super thrilled about, but this round 7 pick is where we ended things
Discount.
off. James Cook available round 7. Now this, I guarantee this guy's going to lead the backfield of the Bills. Maybe he doesn't get a shit ton of carries. Maybe it's more like an ETN situation. But think about that for a second. ETN last year. Now James Cook this year. I think James Cook is going to explode. He comes from a football family. He knows what he's doing. The competition around him there isn't very stiff. James Cook will be catching the ball. He's an incredible wide receiver as well. He'll be running the ball inside the holes. He's a smaller guy, kind of like ETN. I like what I'm seeing with a round 7 pick because I do believe that James Cook is going to finish as a top 10 running back this year. And it's going to come a lot from the PPR. So just like we like our quarterbacks to run, we like our running backs to catch. You know what I mean? It's like just a giant circle. Your running back that can catch is more valuable than your running back that doesn't. The Matt Fortes that just run the ball, the Frank Gores. Sometimes you need those guys who are going to catch the ball, get down the field a little bit, and all of a sudden you got another 1.7 points up against your opponent. James Cook at round 7, I think, is an absolute steal, which leaves us with Kelce, ETN, Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, Trevor Lawrence, DeAndre Hopkins, James Cook, and then you can start filling out your bench, looking at your defense. I think it's a fine lineup to win a championship this year, and I'd love to try and replicate it in other leagues.
A+. It's an A+, man. I really do. I think when we go back and we look at the end of this year, I think we're going to look at maximized value at each and every pick. And I really just feel like where we kind of, in a way, last year cracked the code on Josh Allen going early, and now Josh Allen's going early, we're kind of reverting a little bit going, hey, like Josh Allen looks good, but T-Law's going to look really, really good too, and you could get him 2 and potentially even 3 rounds later, maximize value, and that's what we're looking to do here in this draft this year.
Yeah, and I do love it because it is all about the value. Ridley, in a keeper league, I picked him up when he was on waivers because people had given up on him. This year, he's, like we said, we got him round 4, but we think he's going to be higher than that. That's really what you want to look at is not the player itself, but the value. It's more about sometimes like skipping on players than it is taking them. And with round 1, it's about taking them. Round 2, taking them, and then round 3, 4, 5, we were skipping people to get the guys we like. So again, the bouillon there, that gold bouillon, that trio, that threesome, ETN, Ridley, and T-Law, I think they're going to be explosive this year. Rob, you got any final thoughts?
Again, the only thing that comes to mind is if you don't get Kelce, get Nick Chubb this year.
Once again, this is Fantasy R&R with Rob and Ryan. We'll see you next time.